Hello, and welcome to episode number 13, the Nelson Aguilar episode of The Checkdown, brought to you by The Painted Lines. I'm your host, Shane Half, and you can follow me on Twitter at @halfandhalf_TPL. Make sure you smash that subscribe button here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. Now let's get into it. Today, we're going to kick off a video series of NFC East positional power rankings. Now that the draft is over, I'm going to start breaking down one position per week, telling you which position group has the best chance of thriving in the NFC East. And so today we're going to start with the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. So let's get into it. At number 1 in my quarterback power rankings, I have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have Dak Prescott returning from an injury. Now, last year in the few games that he played, Dak Prescott was on a record-setting pace. He completed 68% of his passes for 1,856 yards, 9 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions while taking 10 sacks. He added another 93 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Now, he only played in 5 games before he sustained that gruesome injury to his right ankle, and it required multiple surgeries to fix it. Now, the Cowboys weren't really winning games before the injury, but that was not Dak's fault. Through 5 games, he was on pace for a 5,939-yard passing season, a number that would have shattered Peyton Manning's 2013 record of just under 5,500 yards. Now, the only real question mark for the Cowboys at the quarterback position is if Dak Prescott will come back healthy and if he can continue at the same pace. If he's able to do so, the Cowboys offense should be something special in 2021. But if he's not, there's really not much behind him. Cooper Rush had no stats last year, and he's not a backup that you could feel comfortable putting in 2021. And so at that point, the Cowboys would really have no one to turn to, and they could be tied to a really bad contract with Dak for the foreseeable future if he's unable to come back healthy. At number 2 on the list, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles have Jalen Hurts and Joe Flacco as their top 2 quarterbacks. In last season, Jalen Hurts completed 52% of his passes for 1,061 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions while taking 13 sacks. He also rushed the ball 63 times for 354 yards and 3 touchdowns while fumbling 9 times. Now, a year ago, in the offseason, the Eagles fans and Cowboys fans were debating who was a better quarterback, Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz. Those were fun days, weren't they? Back when the Eagles thought they had the quarterback position settled. Now you fast forward today and Wentz is no longer even on the Eagles roster, replaced by a second-round pick from a year ago. So Jalen Hurts gets the nod in the final 4 games of the season in Philly last season, and he injected some excitement into what was otherwise a stagnant offense. Now, he wasn't without his issues, but his Week 4 numbers put him on pace for a 4,200-yard passing season and a 1,400-yard rushing season. Now, only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history have ever had a 1,000-yard rushing season. It was Michael Vick in 2016 and then Lamar Jackson in 2019 and 2020. Neither of those quarterbacks surpassed 3,000 yards rushing in those respective seasons. And so if Hurts is able to improve his accuracy and maintain that same production in 2021, he could solidify himself as the franchise quarterback for the Eagles for the long term. Now on to number 3, we've got the New York Football Giants, who returned Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback, and Mike Glennon steps into the backup role. Daniel Jones completed 62.5% of his passes last year for 2,943 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions while taking 45 sacks. He added 423 yards on the ground and a touchdown while fumbling 11 times and having the infamous trip in the Eagles games. Now, with the drafting of Kadarius Toney, the signing of Kenny Golladay and John Ross, there are a lot of options for Daniel Jones in 2021. All the excuses are gone. All the weapons he could ever need have been placed around him, and it is time for him to make a leap and prove that he was worth the 10th overall or a top 10 pick. Daniel Jones hasn't exactly been bad in his time in New York, but he's done nothing to set himself apart as a special quarterback. He has the athleticism to be a threat with his legs. He has the ability to make NFL throws, but he just simply hasn't put it all together. The injury of Saquon Barkley really hurt the Giants last season, and so with his return, the second year of Joe Judge, It is sink or swim time for Daniel Jones. You could argue the Giants should have selected Justin Fields when he fell to them at 11 in the draft, and they chose to trade back with the Bears, and they may live to regret that decision if they get in a bidding war for a quarterback next offseason. And finally, at 4, we have the Washington football team. They bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick to be the starting quarterback, and they return Taylor Heineke as their backup. Now, Fitzpatrick completed 68.5% of his passes last year for 2,091 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions while taking 14 sacks. They truly were a quarterback away from being a scary team last season. And so in the offseason, they chose not to go all in on obtaining a potential franchise quarterback, electing to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick in free agency. Now, Fitzpatrick is a longtime backup / spot starter who's entering his 17th season in the league. He would have been a perfect mentor for a rookie quarterback, but he's only started double-digit games one time in the last 4 seasons, and he's a very hot and cold player. And so Fitzpatrick will likely have games where he is nearly unstoppable, but he's going to be unable to sustain that level of play over the course of the season, and more importantly, into a playoff run. In reality, the football team likely signed a quarterback who will do just enough to ensure that it's very difficult for them to land a top quarterback again next April. And so for both the short and the long-term outlook, the football team comes in last in the NFC quarterback power rankings. Well, that's going to do it for episode number 13 of the Checkdown. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, follow us on Twitch at The Painted Lines so you don't miss the next episode, and drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Who has the best quarterback situation in the NFC East?
Audio